Hello and welcome. And thank you all for joining us to learn about and discuss legacy letters. Legacy letters, which can provide an enduring connection within your family, within your friends, and in your life. I thank you, Gray Panthers, for inviting me to talk about this topic, and I look forward to our conversation. So, we'll talk first about what is a legacy letter, because that can be confusing because there's another document that has very much similar impact and intention, and it's called an ethical will. And the truth is, they're both the same document, but they have two different titles. So don't get confused in that sense. The names are actually interchangeable, and they do the same exact thing. The one thing that ethical will nomenclature does, though, is suggest that it's a legal document. The fact is, neither a legacy letter nor an ethical will are legal documents, but I'll continue and discuss what they are. A legacy letter is an expression of a person's life wisdom, values, meaningful life experiences, and love in particular for the recipient of this document. And it's intended to serve as a guide and source of comfort for the recipient for the rest of his or her life. And often, people who get that letter or ethical will, if you will, hold on to it their whole lives, and they pass it on to generations after. And that's really the concept, is this is an ongoing sharing of this wisdom. Next. What we talk about when we say the letter should say is some word values. That's a tough word in our society. What does a value really mean? And it comes, as we know, we get our values from different places, but that doesn't matter so much, is how we take it in. So our values are our life priorities, a set of standards for how we behave toward other people and throughout life, what you want to do and how you want to behave, and the personal attributes that you admire. Those are your values. Often it comes from religion, or it may come from family experience or how you've been brought up. But they're really the core values that make you up and that make you feel okay in life. Next. We want to give a legacy of values. But what does that mean and why? Research has been done that suggests that we are actually hardwired instincts. We have instincts that say we should give legacies to the people who we love in our lives. In particular, people who come from our genetics, but it doesn't have to be. It can be people who we care about. Research suggests why. Why do we have this instinct in us? And their answer is because we give our DNA to our relatives, and we want our DNA, biologically, we want our DNA to survive, to do better. And that's what they're thinking, is that it's an evolutionary value for your family. It helps them survive better, and it also helps to make the world a better place. And we have legacies in many ways besides just financial stuff, right? Genetics is one part of it. And as I said, religion and other values. And legacies are an important part of our lives. We have an intention to get comfortable and strengthen our recipients because they are our genetic people. And that's important to us. So we try to think about it that way. I came across this notion of a legacy letter Years ago, my background is that I was a caregiver for my father and my mother when they were aging. My mother had Alzheimer's, and my dad was physically very frail, but mentally sharp. And I knew from our work that he was so lonely and bored and sad because he was basically shut in. So I asked him to work with me and make his memoir. So for a long time, we worked on a memoir. And when he passed away, I self-published his memoir and gave it to all my family. I was shocked. Within the week, within the month, throughout the year, many of my family members would call me up and say, Amy, I had trouble today, or I felt lonely, or I was sad. And in each case, they said, but I want you to know that your father's memoir meant so much to me. I read a portion of it, I didn't feel alone. I read a portion of it, I I looked at life differently because I was with family. And on, it showed such a purpose. But I knew that while it's wonderful to do a memoir, most people cannot do that. Not so much that they can't physically write it, but they don't have the time, they don't have the inclination. It's not there. And so that's when I found this legacy letter concept, which has the same benefits in terms of making people feel more comfortable when they get it and happy and not alone. They do all of those good things. And that's why I'm here to talk to you about encouraging you to write a legacy letter. Next. It turns out that Oxford University did a survey, and they found that most people do not want to leave money as their legacy. Rather, 81% of their respondents want their heirs to inherit their personal values, the stuff that we write about in legacy letters. 38% said they wanted spirit and sense of humor. 20% said knowledge, 16% said religion, and 7% said support for community. When I looked into the religion one, a lot of the questions were, well, gee, I know what it is in religion, but our society doesn't really follow all the values that religion gives, this and that and this and that. So it didn't take hold for many people in the same way that the legacy letter personal values did. I think that's very important. And I also think that making a legacy out of something other than money is very important. When my father passed, I realized that I didn't want the last language, the last voice my family and loved ones had in their head was in legalese from the will he left and all about material goods. That's not me, and I didn't want that to be the last voice, the last thing my family and friends said and heard from me. And that's where legacy letters also are so important and wonderful. The last words they can hear from you are about love and about material, valuable things, non-material things, what matters in life, loving, kindness, those kinds of things. And so that was another reason why I wanted to pursue legacy letters. One thing I want to tell you is the history of legacy letters. They come from the Old Testament, where a tribal leader or community leader or group leader knew that he was not going to be able to continue to be a leader. And he called his community together at that time and left them with values and strategies and love and hope for the future. And that then got translated in Western society in the 1800s, 1700s, in a writing that actually existed, and people wrote legacy letters then. But somehow, around 1900, we dropped that tradition. And now we recognize the importance of adding it back into our lives. Next. One of the things that you get as a benefit for the author, as the author, is you can give and get forgiveness. What you write in the legacy letter are your values and your wisdom, but you can also write, and many people do, conversations that you would have and want to have with the people you're writing to that ask for forgiveness or give forgiveness. For whatever reason in your life, you couldn't do this in person, but it's haunting you, or you want to have a closure to you. And this letter can make that happen for you and for the people who you're engaged in this issue with. Through the process, you learn about yourself. You do thinking. What is this? What am I learning? What do I feel is important in life? And so you're learning. You then gain a control of some sort over life and closure, an opportunity to explain reasonings and action that you've taken, certainly to encourage the values of importance and offer a sense of meaningfulness in life. And they've shown that when you write like this and you put this on paper, your thoughts, your values, your wishes, you tend to get healing in your heart, mentally, and in your body at times too. Next, please. The recipients gain tremendously. As I explained in my family experience, they gain an inspiration and guidance for difficult challenges. They're able to keep the memory of a loved one strong so they're not alone. And that's important, I think, too, for the teenagers who are forced into concerns about themselves through social media. They feel lonely. They feel separated from their community. But here's a document that can make them feel a part of a great family or a loving person's life. And that just makes it feel so much better, it seems. They can learn and affirm important life values and wisdom, feel closer to family and the universe of people, and gets a sense of identity and roots. You know, hey, the person who left me that letter was thinking of me. Thinking of me, says the recipient. And that makes them feel so much stronger, so much more value as an individual, as a human being. It can help resolve the conflicts that perhaps were churning, and it helps the person look toward the future, which I think is really important. Next, please. Now, before I talk about some of the reasons further to write letter, I want to say, too, as I said, it was not a legal letter, but lawyers who are estate planners encourage often people to write a legacy letter. Why? Because the process of thinking through his or her life, who they want to identify as individuals who get this or that or this or that from their estate, helps them figure out who should get that money when they think about, when you as a writer of a legacy letter, think about your relationship with the people who you want to give stuff to. And that's pretty wonderful to help because that means that your estate planning, the legal side of it, will feel more comfortable for you too. So that's summarized some of the reasons already to write the letter, but there are benefits for the individual authors because you're getting to feel closure, or you're getting to feel forgiveness, and you're getting to feel the love that you have for people. I mentioned teens' isolation and loneliness. And another important reason, which is absolutely why I'm here to talk to you today and why I'm very, very glad the Grey Panthers is with us on this, is our culture and society is not as respectful of older people as I feel it deserves. Asian societies, you may know, and other societies treat our elders, their elders, as special, smart, thoughtful, and learned people. Sadly, in our society, my experience as an advocate for older individuals has shown me the opposite. Our society is not respectful of elders the way it should be. And I truly believe that if we can encourage this tradition again, as it was for many years, we will regain the respect for elders that they deserve, that we deserve. And our older folks will have a special role in culture of writing these legacy letters, and they will be valuable to everyone who receives them. We saw that a little bit in the pandemic, how older people were not given the respect or protection that they deserved. And I have often in my conversations with legislators left sadly because the needs of older individuals were not made, forget a priority, they were not often made to be even part of the program. So if we can do this, and many now are many people, not just Gray Panthers, but there are others as well, like myself and a number of advocates, if we can put the legacy letter concept, ethical will concept, back in our tradition, as it had been for so many years, I truly believe we will be able to change the approach that people have to elder people, and will realize and appreciate the life wisdom that has been accumulated. And you can help us by engaging in the life legacy effort whenever you can, and pass it on to other people as well. Next, please. Now, how to write it. That sometimes gets people a little bit scared. You shouldn't be. This is not hard, but it does take time. And I'm here to help you if ever you need a help. But this is my suggestion as to how to do it. There is no perfect way. There is no individual way. You do what's good for you in writing this. But I'll describe it more generally now. It should be a writing process over several days. When I think back to my childhood, I remember my first grade teacher saying, "You never turn in your first draft." And that's what I think with this too. You can take notes first. Think about who you want to give this to. You can do one for everybody, one family, one letter, everybody the same. Or you can do individual letters. A lot depends on your relationship with them, what they need, you think, to hear. We'll go into that a little bit more, but that's the concept. You can do one or you can do individual ones. So either way, you should not give your first draft. You should sit with it, read it a couple of times before you turn it over. Think about it a couple of times and hold on to it for a few days as you go through life. You can also give it while you're alive, but most people do leave it upon passing. Decide if you want to do this alone or with the help of another. When I say with the help of another, I don't mean that you hire a writer. But what I do mean is if you have a good friend, you can read them a little bit of it and ask them, what do you think? Is that clear? Is that too much? And get some feedback. Doesn't mean that person is right, but feedback is good from someone who's trying to help you. And then you write down the values and experiences that have mattered most to you. Think about that. We have some prompts that can help you, but really, you can think about it on your own too. Think about, what did you learn when you were in elementary school? Was there any life lesson there for you? Did you learn anything in particular about values or behaviors or society or yourself or them at any time? Write it down first. Which are the things, the values and knowledge? Before you start stringing them into sentences, start taking notes for yourself. This is something I want to cover. This is something I want to cover. And just write that down and then try to create the sentences after that. The experiences that you had, the values that they came. When did you change your mind on such and such? All of that is a little bit of a memory. It's not a memoir. It's a focus on how did you learn about life and values. Maybe religion was important to you, and you can write that part down. Or maybe you've decided religion is not for you, and write that part down. I also recommend that you jog your memory with songs from your younger era, maybe childhood or teens, poems. I'm a big advocate of If by Rudyard Kipling. It's just one value line after another. And you can see if any one of those lines ever hit you. And jog to see what other sayings you grew up with or you took into your heart. In that regard, one of the ones that often comes up is, and this too shall pass. That saying seems to have been a saying that many people in our generation and in the generation before us often used to help them get through tough stuff. And that's the kind of saying you might want to include, especially if you can remember a time when that saying helped you in particular. That's the kind of information that you can pass to one of your folks who you thought might be able and need to have some sort of a saying as backbone, if you will, in tough stuff time. So I believe in going through songs and I believe in poems, but I also believe if you have at your fingertips a photo album of family when you were growing up, that can help too, because you have to jog the mind, and sometimes the mind doesn't take you there. Sometimes it's protecting you from taking there. It varies, but that's how you start to think about things that get you going. Then you outline 2 drafts, not one. As I said, my first grade teacher would be very pleased to hear me say this. And then you write a final piece. And I'm going to tell you a story that I had that I put in my stuff. The story doesn't have to be anything super duper. It just has to be something that you experienced and that changed your view of life for the better. So you can't see me, but I was and am a very short person. And so at 10 years old, I was a very short young girl. And my parents brought home their first big car, a sedan car. My dad had taken me with him to pick up the car. We get out of the car. He gets out of his car, closes the door. I'm in the front seat. I get out of my car, my side of the car, and I'm trying. I can't for the life of me seem to, close this big car door. If you're about my age, you know that car doors were pretty heavy in those days, beginning. My father says to me, Amy, you need to focus. Make up your mind that you're going to do this. You may not make it, but try. Make up your mind you're going to make this happen, and you're going to do everything in your body to push that car door. And I heard him that I had to do everything I could to make this happen. And I thought to myself, and I alerted every body part in my body, pushed that car door, closed, and it worked. And while I didn't go around, closing doors the rest of my life, the message and the story were very helpful to me in recognizing that I gave up too soon. So that sometimes when I hit questionable situations and I'm not sure I can make it, what comes to my mind is that story and the question, did I try my best from that story? And that's the kind of thing that if I write, oh, I could say that just in words, but if I say it in the story, it sticks and it's powerful. And that's my experience. That's why stories like that from your past written in can be very helpful, and it's very interesting reading. So you make 2 drafts and then you write a final. Next, please. So these are some do's and don'ts. You must be honest. I do not believe that you should ever lie in a legacy letter. If you don't want to write something, then don't write it, but don't lie. This is going to last, hopefully, more than one generation, this document. You never know, and you shouldn't ever lie. This is your legacy. Be truthful. Focus as much as you can on the future of this individual, your recipient, thinking about what you think could be happening next and what they need to hear from you. Write with love. Don't be negative. This is not the place for you to criticize the recipient or to say, if only you did this, or I wish you did that. That's criticism. This is about love. Find the words and the way that you can show your love. Even if you've come to terrible blows in the past, find the love, because that's the thing that's going to keep that person afloat in the future, that you loved him or her. And maybe you didn't feel it, and maybe she didn't know it, but the fact that you did, that's the message that they will hold on to and that you'd want them to hold on to. And then there are the sayings that I mentioned and the family stories that I mentioned. And they're fun reading. And that helps you be seen more as a person than as a writer who they don't really feel they know. You write the most salient, not everything, and be yourself. Next, please. And this is what I was saying about sayings, and this too shall pass. There are lots of great sayings out there, and there are easy ways online to find sayings that can reflect what the virtues and values that you want to suggest exist. And sometimes the fact that somebody else has said it in addition to what you're saying, that can bolster your statement. That somebody else is saying something and you are too. Wow. Both of you are thinking like that. That's powerful. That's much more powerful. And there's a Chinese proverb that I saw, which is kind of like, and this too shall pass in a way. The gem cannot be polished without friction, nor is man perfected without trials. So if you've had a really hard time, you're going through life, wow, so many people must have had that same experience, that there's a saying. There's a saying that tells you, keep going, keep going. No man is perfected without some trials. And it goes on and on. You can look at them. Next, please. So want to show you too, if you can see it, I don't know. Can you see this? This is what I use to give a legacy letter. It is actually an archival folder that often legal documents are put into. Put it like this, you can see. And we open it up. You can see the paper right in here. Out. And you put your legacy letter in the, you close it up, tie it up, so that it looks like a really nice gift. And sometimes I suggest if it's given on a birthday to your recipient or turning some age or some other thing, or you leave it for passing, it feels like a gift. It's not just a slim piece of paper. It's in this special archival package. And some people actually give it at certain birthdays. Let's say you turn 21. They give you a legacy letter at 21. But as I say, it can also be part of your estate or some other way. And when it's a birthday, you can even gift wrap it if you want. And then you still have something that will help it last for generations in this. And what I typically do is not only do I put in the letter, but I look for a photograph of myself or the person who's written it and an individual. So they have a picture right there. Some people don't write anymore. Some people just do legacy letters on audio tape or videotape. And that's doable too. My only concern about that is the technology changes. And if you can't keep up with the technology in the future, so that that technology that you wrote in is available, then you don't have it. You can do both. You can write the letter on paper with, if you want, the archival book. And by the way, you can get that in many of the art stores that sell arts like paint and things like that. And or you can just do the videotape itself if that's easiest for you. And that way you might not even have to feel like you're a writer as such. You're a spokesperson for yourself, if you will. It's a lot of different ways to do this. They work, and they're all important, and they all do that. Love, kindness, and thoughtfulness that we all need more of in our lives. So the legacy letters are memories that help us understand our past and present and our future. The writing helps us heal as authors of legacy letters, and a chance to act in a way that can resolve conflicts or can preserve love and pride for our recipients in future generations, and will include, in some cases, if you want, family stories, family challenges that may help not only this generation, but may help generations in the future. Dr. Andrew Weil once said that writing a legacy letter lets us hug family and friends forever. And I think that's true, and I wish you all the best legacy. Thank you so much.